We're here today for one reason, and that is for cocktails and confections. This week, we are going to have a theme of espresso, my favorite. Um, Actually, an avid espresso drinker. I don't even drink regular coffee. So, because it's right after the new year and we are all exhausted, we are going to make an espresso martini and a coffee themed confection. Today we're going to do cake pops. I've made hundreds of cake pops. Um, and I'm going to do them a little differently than I do typically, but we'll see how it goes. This week we are doing espresso. We are going to nail an espresso martini. I prepped some things ahead of time that I'm going to go through with you all, and then we're going to make some cake pops. Okay, let's jump right into the espresso martini. I'm going to leave up the recipe for you right here for just a minute for you to take a good look at, take a screenshot if you want to, and then we're going to enjoy ourselves an espresso martini. Or if you want to, you can pause it, make one on your own, and we can enjoy it together. Okay, I'm going to jump right into the ingredients here. I did have to do some prep ahead of time. So I did end up fat washing the vodka. I use, and I always use, Tito's vodka. Um, and I fat washed it with some coconut oil. So what this does, it gives it a complex depth to the flavor of the vodka, a silky feel to it, and it just gives it a decadent feel to the level of alcohol in the drink. And I'm really excited to try this in the espresso martini. I actually haven't done this before with an espresso, so we're going to try it out today. I prepped this ahead of time, and what that entailed was I ended up um, putting some vodka in, and I did just hand pour this with a fairly large scoop of melted coconut oil. So I took the coconut oil, I put it in a container, melted it down in my microwave, and then put it in a storage container, gave it a little shake, and then I put it in my freezer to soak overnight. Well, to freeze overnight. Okay. So let's start with the ingredients. We get the Boston shakers. We have Mr. Black, which is a cold brew liqueur, Liqueur 43, Tito's, a homemade simple syrup, equal parts simple on the stove. Dissolve that sugar and I melt it down for a minute or two. It gives a nice simple. Okay, we're going to start with the espresso. I have an espresso machine. This is the double espresso Chiaro. So let's brew that now. That way it gives it a second to drop down in temperature a bit. All right, and we are going to start brewing that. You've got some nice froth on there. I do really love this machine. It is the Nespresso Virtual line. I've had it for at least 5 years, and she hasn't failed me yet. Okay, let's make it. So we're going to start out with 1.5 ounces of both the fat washed vodka and the espresso. So I'm going to start with the vodka. So we're going to do 1.5 ounces. These are measured. Ounce, half. That's of the vodka. And then we're going to do, oh, that's not going so well, 1.5 ounces. All right. We're going to give it 1/2 ounce of simple. We're going to give her 1/2 ounce of Mr. Black and 1/2 ounce of Liquor 43. All right. Time for ice. All right, I threw a couple of small cubes in there to keep things cold. And then we're going to do, my husband likes bourbon, and he has the large ice cube. So I'm going to throw a large ice cube in there to help with emulsifying this drink. And we're going to shake her for 30 seconds. Let me speed this up for you so you don't have to sit here while I shake for 30 seconds. You want this tin to be nice and cold. It's going to help with the froth. It's going to help with the emulsification. We're going to strain her out, and she is going to be good. She looks good. All right. Double strain. Nice. Okay, so this is settling still for just a minute, and I want to enjoy it in her pure beauty. But it's time for the best part of this. Let's top her off. All right, so it is perfect time for this. We're in the new year. What's better than health, wealth, and happiness to top off our espresso martini? Health, wealth, and happiness. Let's try her. Here she is. All right, as you can see, she's got a beautiful dark color. I never use Bailey's in my espresso martinis. It's just simply not for me. I'm not crazy about it. And as you can see, the froth on this is gorgeous. She is chopped with 3 fresh espresso beans. And it smells delicious. All right, let's give her a shot. Ooh. Okay. This is actually delicious. All right, I can't chug this right down. We're going to start with some confections. We're going to do some cake pops. I pre-made the cakes yesterday. They sat overnight. They are chocolate cakes. I split the batter in 2, and on one of the batters, I added in some espresso powder. It gives it some extra depth, but if you put a little bit extra of that espresso powder, it actually gives it a little bit of a coffee flavor. So let's make some cake pops. I'm excited. All right, before the pops, let's clean up a little bit. I got to get rid of this liquor. I really want to show you how I do my process for the cake pops. And I'm actually going to try out a different shape today, and I've been thinking about how the best way is to dip this, so we're going to kind of work that out together. I don't know. I want to talk about the espresso martini again for a minute because it was just so delicious. And the shaking method with the large ice cube really gives it space to emulsify. And this is just, I don't know, it's fantastic. I'm getting the slightest hint, if you're wondering about the coconut flavor, I'm getting the slightest hint. Now, I don't actually taste coconut, but I do get a little bit of that flavor. This isn't like an espresso coconut martini. I'm not getting that at all. This is a beautifully, beautifully balanced espresso martini. And it really does. It is silky, and the color is just, she is stunning. I have to make this more often. All right, doing a little bit of prep to get ready here. Obviously, I did already bake my cakes yesterday. I did make one. It's the same exact cake batter that I simply split in half and added some espresso powder to this one. So I want to try them both and kind of see which tastes better. I know that the taste of coffee and espresso really does help to elevate the chocolate. And if you do add a little bit more of that in, you do get a nice coffee flavor. So I'm intrigued. I haven't ever added espresso powder to cake before, so we'll see how that goes, especially with the chocolate dipped on the cake mixed with the frosting. So we'll see if we can even taste it. Maybe not. But let's just get into it. So I'm actually going to, I'm going to prep a little bit of garnish first for the cake pops, just because it needs to sit and cool in the fridge. So I'm going to start with melting down some chocolate, and we're going to get that into the fridge first. And then we'll get into the process of getting these into the bowl, mixing them in with some frosting, getting them shaped, and decorating them. We'll see if they're good. Gotta wear the gloves. I'm gonna keep it clean. I hate getting the cake in my nails. All right, so I'm gonna start out with just the regular cake, and I do need a knife. So what I typically do, and these are very small cakes because typically I make them in bulk, but I'll cut off the edges because they're a little bit harder. And I'm essentially just using the center portion of this, and sometimes, although the top doesn't, but the bottom does. And I'm cutting off essentially all the edges. And we're just going to discard of it. And actually, I'm going to get a paper bag so that we can get rid of that stuff right away. Okay, but first, oh God, why is that so good though? All right, so I am just going to cut these off. Sometimes I'll add a little frosting to these and give them to like my daughter, or my grandmother for that matter. My grandmother more than Alexis, but. All right, so I'm left with this cake, and the bottom edges are a little bit rough, so I am just gonna cut these off. You don't want chunks of really tough cake mixed with the frosting because it is such a smooth consistency. This is just how I've always done it. Somebody else probably has a better way without having to waste so much of this cake, but I'm really just dropping it in here. And we are going to add our frosting in, and we're going to get a beautiful consistency. Okay, and for all of you go-getters out there like my sister who makes their own frosting, good for you, but I don't have time for that. So we have store-bought frosting, and we're probably going to end up changing these gloves a few times. As you can see, we do have some cake, all the edges cut off, so we have no hard edges, and just some typical standard frosting. We're gonna mix this up. We're gonna get a nice consistency. I'm gonna put her back into the fridge for a couple of minutes to get nice and cool so that it helps with the cooling process and holding on the stick. And then we're gonna do the espresso cake and we're gonna see how it goes. Oh, I do have to check this. This is starting to melt nicely, so I'm gonna turn this off, I think. Let's give her a stir. Okay, so I do have some bowl molds here. And what I'm gonna do, and you know what, we do have, it looks like these are all different. So I'm gonna end up just spooning these on to the best of my ability, to as many that we can do. And there's a little bit of a process here. All right, so I did just kind of throw it all in there and just gonna kind of drop it down. And it is getting quite literally everywhere, so that, any bubbles are released. You can see if you need to add any more. And then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do so that the back gets nice and smooth on these. And I actually put way too much chocolate in here. These actually look okay. So I do have a pastry cutter. So I am just going to go ahead in and I am going to now scrape off any additional chocolate that we don't really need. And I really am not concerned about that second row. I made way too much chocolate. I'm more concerned with that top row. So I'm just going to give you a quick peek here. I did put some chocolate in. We did, tap it out so that all the bubbles came out. I'm not, like I said, I'm not too worried about the second row. I mean, really, typically I need only maybe 4 of these because I'm not making that many. So I'm going to put this in the fridge and we're going to use this later as a garnish. Let's add some frosting to this cake. And really, you're just taking all the hard work that you just did and you are breaking up this cake is really all that you're doing. You are making this into a well blended with cake and frosting. I'll grab a little bit more here. And there's not much cake in here because like I said, I'm not making very many today and I'm more than likely going to have way too much. So I just want to show you this beautiful, see how this sticks together nicely? This is essentially one large cake ball. And really, I think this is done. Excuse my chocolate glove hands, but as you can see, this is one large cake ball, blended with frosting, mixed up. We take those tough and rough edges off. And I'm going to cool this just for a couple of minutes while I work on my next cake before we start forming. That way it's nice and chilled and we don't need to worry about anything melting, especially in a warm kitchen. But while my glove is fairly clean, ooh, yes, girl. You impress me every time I sip you. I don't know, this cake's a little bit rougher, but let's get these edges off. Nonetheless, I do have one of my dogs here in the kitchen with me. You can hear her tap dancing around us. I am trying to be careful to not drop anything because, as we all know, dogs can't have chocolate. Okay, we're going to start out with some, I have Toll House Nestle chocolate chips. I always use semi-sweet for the first base layer on the cake pops. It's real chocolate. It's not that waxy stuff you get at like Michael's, those candy melts. We're talking real chocolate. So let's melt this down. I do it with a little bit of Crisco to help thin that out, to make it a thinner layer of chocolate on there, less bulky, more beautiful to the eye. We're able to see this cookie cutter. It's exactly what it is. It's a cookie cutter. You can see the size of it by my hand. I'm going to try to make this into a cake pop. Is it going to look beautiful? I'm not sure. I've always done round cake pops. I'm hoping it does come out nicely. I want to lay it out and get an even, I'm going to try to do probably roughly half an inch. I'm going to try to do a half an inch out of this cookie cutter. And then what we're going to end up trying to do is I want to dip the whole pop in a thin layer of the semi-sweet chocolate. And then I want to give a couple more dips. I have white and pink to give the look of the lid and the label. So I hope that we can achieve this. I'm not sure, haven't done it before. I was trying to think of the best way. For a typical cookie, you could, you'd use the royal icing in a bagger, but we can't do that when you're dipping the cake pop. So let's see how we can work this out today. Okay, we're almost there with the chocolate. The Crisco tends, and this is historically, I've seen this, the Crisco tends to be the lumpy parts in this chocolate. So I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, why am I not melting it ahead of time and just adding it in little by little? That probably makes more sense, right? So I'm gonna keep mixing for another minute or two. Sometimes I have to, just shake off a couple of extra lumps, but we'll see if I can get it as smooth as I'm hoping for. Okay, we're gonna add some more gloves, and we're gonna roll out some of the cake, and we're gonna start forming the balls on these. So let's do that. I feel like a doctor with these on. All right. Okay. Wax paper. We do have the cake. Have a rolling pin. I'm just folding this in between one piece of wax paper, and we're gonna take the rolling pin to it so we can get it, and I might just do one at a time, get it nice and smooth. I'm not trying to get it too flat, obviously. Let's see how this looks. That one might be good. All right, just gonna try not to do it too hard so that I don't get them too flat, because we do need some substance, some depth to it so I can get a stick in there. So part of me thinks I might just actually, I'm gonna fold these again and roll them again, just so that we know the other side's flat. I keep folding in on this side, and I just want to make sure that this side is flat too. See how she looks, almost. I think we're okay. Let's see. I'll grab my cookie cutter. Where did I put the cookie cutter? Oh, it's over here. There is a sharper side and a dull side. Let me just see if this even covers what I need it to cover here. This one it does. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I have to do here. So that worked out nicely. And this one, I just don't think that it is. And I'm just going to pull away the excess. Shaped like a little to-go coffee cup. So we are going to dip the sticks. Actually, no, I lied. We're gonna make the balls. Make a couple of balls of each, and just gonna grab a handful. I'm gonna put these in the fridge for a minute, and it's perfect with the gloves because it doesn't stick to your hands, which is nice. Sometimes you gotta kind of squeeze them to get the form of them again, and then just continue rolling. Like sometimes there'll be a crack. But you want a nice smoothie. You want a nice, smooth, shiny cake pop. And this is what it should look like. I think that's a good size. I don't think you should do any bigger than what I'm showing you here. If there's too much frosting in your cake, and if you do the cake pop too large, the stick will not stay. That stick can break right through the cake pop when somebody goes and try to pick it up. Or when you're trying to physically dip the cake into the chocolate. So you don't want them too large, you don't want them too dense and heavy. You should have just enough frosting in there to hold the cake together, and just big enough where it's substantial, but it won't overpower the stick. So I'm going to keep this one on the side with the regular chocolate cake, and then we're going to do the same with the Yeah, that does smell so beautiful. And I'm only gonna put these in the fridge for just a couple of minutes. I'm gonna see if I can check the bows that I had prepped for the garnish and see how those are doing. I'm curious if those are hardened. Okay, my molds with the pink chocolate in there. When I press down on these, they seem to be done. You can see when if you can see, you kind of hear it when these pull away. Doesn't seem to be still in a melting consistency. So I think we're safe to take the chocolates out of the mold. All right, time to dip the sticks. Most important part of your process. You do not dip these sticks before you put the stick in. It's not going to hold. This is used as a glue, as a binder, and it's a necessary step in order for your cake pops to really hold for yourself, or your friends, your family, your party, whatever you're doing. So you're just going to dip, you're going to put it in, you get a nice little, I actually really like the little um, button of chocolate that ends up being there. So for these other cake pops, I am going to just put this right there down the bottom. And I'm not so sure that's going to work. And that's okay. I think it needs to be thicker. I'm going to just push this in like 3/4 of the way up, and I'm going to put these right back into the refrigerator. Okay. I'm going to give those about 10 minutes in the fridge. Once the chocolate for the sticks have cooled, we're going to start dipping them. We already have our decor prepped. This would be a good moment for you to, if you're using things like sprinkles or other colors, you could start, melting that chocolate and prepping some bowls or platters for that process. Just make sure you use some sort of wax or parchment paper underneath the platters while you're in the process of making the cake pops. I've made that mistake before, stupidly. Forgot to put it down, put it in the fridge, and then you take it out of the fridge and you have to wedge them off the plate and the bottoms pop off. It's a mess. Wax paper or parchment paper, always. We'll see you in a few minutes. Mm, she's still good. Mm. I am currently melting some white chocolate in the microwave. Um, 30 seconds with some Crisco. You stir it in between each 30-second run. I got to be very careful not to burn the chocolate. It can be very easy. Don't put it on for too long. You should really put it on for short increments, and even towards the end of the melt process, I wouldn't even do the full 30 seconds. Especially the regular white chocolate, not the melting chocolate. That white chocolate tends to burn fairly quickly, and it is fairly tough to thin out as you do the normal chocolate. So I'm going to suggest melting chocolates if you need something white in color, not the morsels. I've had a really tough time with it. You guys have any tricks, please fill me in, because I'd rather use a better quality chocolate than a wax melt, essentially. Not even with the melting chocolate. This is like frosting. Why? Why though? I can't get this thin no matter what I do. I feel like I had a better time with like this. Like I can hold this upside down and it's not going anywhere. This is not going to dip. Okay. I'm nervous. These are simple. And actually, as a matter of fact, I'm going to take that out. We're going to get her right on her side, and I'm going to put her in. I tend to dip her down to the stick bump, and we're going to give her a beautiful swirl. And I kind of give her a little twist to get off any excess. And we're going to put her down. And we're going to do the same thing here. So let's see if I can make these other pops work. Wow, these are heavy and dense. I don't know if this is going to work. We're going to try. I'm going to dip this on its side. Oh, it might work. Am I shocking myself right now? A little bit? Ooh, it's cracking in half a little bit. Let's see if I can make this work. We do need a little bit of chocolate on the back end here. I am going to add some. I don't know. This might work, actually. I don't know how I'm making this work, but it is working. I'm just dipping off some chocolate. I'll let this stand for a minute. We're going to take off this bottom excess. You don't want to scrape it because you don't want to expose the cake. But I think, friends, this does have a couple of chunks on here, but I just want to get those out. Wow. And we are going to lay her flat. Wow. Wow. Wow, wow. Okay. Did I do it? May have. 10 more minutes. We'll be back. I'm getting there with this white chocolate. There's a lot of Crisco in it. Lots and lots and lots and lots of Crisco. Okay, chocolate is solid. We're going to start dipping. So first I'm going to attempt, and again, we are pulling, not pulling the stick up, and dipping the top section of this cake pop to give it a lid. And this should really just be down to about there. These are not going to be my most elegant. Now the question is, do I want to drizzle dark chocolate or some white chocolate to give it some? Let's see, if we did the white with the pink, that would be probably very cute. Just want to show you close up. We've got the cake pop dipped. And actually what I'm going to do here is I am going to use the white chocolate because it has a beautiful consistency. And I am just going to, like a zebra, we're going to put her down. You can do both ways if you'd like. I let the chocolate drip for a minute just to make sure that there's no lumps in there. We are almost done. Okay, the chocolate is dried. These cake pops are gorgeous. We're going to add the decor. I want to find a couple of really beautiful bows that I love. Sometimes there's a little excess chocolate from the edges you got to kind of just pop off, but I'm just going to add a little bit of chocolate to the back of this, let that drip off just a bit. And then I am just going to add that right to the pop. And you do have to let that sit on there a minute. And let's find another cute one. They're adorable, but this is very cute. Add that here. I like to find a beautiful front end on these so that when you're placing them, the stick looks beautiful and the decor looks beautiful. You want everything facing forward the way that you want it presented. But these pops, these are so bad though. Oh God. This just didn't work out. I'm going to show you. So you have the coffee cup and it just didn't do it. This is a fail. This is a hard fail. I'm gonna let my daughter and her friends eat those. Thank you so much for being here. I actually had so much fun today. My drink was delicious and the cake pops came out so cute. Can you stand it? Those are adorable. We failed with the cookie cutter cake pops. Not good. But we are just in time to take our last nice big sip of this espresso delicious martini and finish her up with trying our cake pops. One of these normal chocolate cake, one of these has espresso powder in it. Let's see how they are. Mm. 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 That espresso powder. Wow. Delicious. Well, I had a really great time. Thank you so much for being here and joining me on these cocktails and confections today. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. It's a date.